Welcome back. This is Undercode Software. In our last videos, we talked about the control flow conditions, where we talked about the if statements, the else, the elif statements. Also we talked about troops, loops. We talked about variables, strings. So if you missed such tutorials, just I advise you to go back and check for those videos so that will pop up with me. So today's video, or in today's tutorial, we are going to talk about the try except function in Python. So with this try except function, this allows us to catch up errors made by the input user, and it keeps our program to run smoothly, and it executes whatever command is below the except function. So when you when you want to ask to prompt a user to enter a number below 20, and the user just enters a string instead of an integer, instead of a number. So in our terminal, you will see that in our terminal, it will throw up an error, a message error. So if we have a variable called the number, and we assign it to an integer, to ask a user to input an integer below 20, if we try to execute our program, we run it, and we see that in our terminal there comes a question to prompt a user to enter a number below 20. So if we tries to put an integer, let me say an integer like 2, like let me say like 12, if you press enter, it will just give us the answer. But when we try to run again, and the user prompt to input a string, it throws an error as seen in our terminal. It will throw an error, as you see, value error. So just for this, or to remove this is where the try and except function comes in, to eliminate this error, and our program still runs even though the user inputs a wrong, let me say, inputs a string instead of an integer or a number or a figure, and so that our program runs smoothly, continuously. This is where what we call the try except function comes in. So let's try to use the try except function, and we see what will happen. So if we try to use the try except function, we write try, then colon. Let's try to indent this. So when you try to use so we also introduce what I call try except function. Print So let's try this invalid input. So for this program, it will prompt a user to enter a number below 20. If the user tries to input a string, it will throw an exception which says that invalid input, and the program will continue running. It will be executed without throwing an error in our terminal. So the try and except function just helps us to catch up errors made by the user, so that our program keeps on running smoothly and executes for the second or the following or the function is below in the except function. So let's try and run our program and see what let's prompt our user to enter, let me say, a number below 20. We press enter. Yes, it's running smoothly. Let's run again our program. So when you try to write a string like dog, you see that our program, it has not thrown any error as it was in the first. So it will just go to the second or the x to the second function, which is except. So it will just print out invalid input because it will go to moves, or the program will still run and execute the below function or the following functions. In addition to that, we can also use special or specific types of errors to expect. So let's say that we have an integer and a variable called let's say there are certain numbers which is let's use the zero division error. So for the zero division error, it means that the 0 cannot be divided by any number. So let's say like answer. So you can't be with an answer equals 10 divided by 0. That's impossible. So this is impossible. Such statements are impossible. So when you run such a program, it will throw an error called zero division error. It will throw an error called zero division error. So when you try to print out, let's say print out answer, if we try to print out answer, when we run our program, okay, let's say so you see that in our terminal it has printed out the second option, except invalid input. Reason 10 divided by 0, it is impossible. So it just, instead of throwing an error, it just given us what we call the exception. So when we try to remove the exception, let's remove the exception and see what I'm talking about. So when we comment out what we call the try and except function, we see that when we try to run our program in our terminal, we go to what we call zero division error, cause division by 0 is an error. It is impossible. So to catch up such errors, we use what I call except error. We use what I call the except, try and except. So let's try to use specific error type like this. So when we try to use error types like value error, zero division error. So if we try to run our program, this will try to execute the zero error, cause the answer, when we print out answer whereby answer is 10 divided by 0, which is impossible, and it is a zero division error. In our terminal, it will just print division by 0, since that the answer is equivalent to 10 divided by 0. So such type of error is called what I call the zero division error. So it will try to specialize what type of error have we done in our program, or as the user put input in our program. So when we try to run our program, we see that it has printed out division by 0. It has specified the type of error which occurred in our program. So when we comment out this print, and also we comment out answer, and we recommend this. Oops. We could recommend this. Okay. We comment this. Also this. And we try to run our program. We see that if we want tries to enter here a string, figures, letters, you see that when you press enter, it will just print out the invalid input. Reason, the error which occurred is called what they call the value error, because the value error occurs when one enters invalid string or integer. So that's all what we call about the try except functions in Python. So let's go and try to look about dictionaries in Python. So for dictionaries, they use a shortcut dic in Python. For dictionaries, these are containers which stores data by the use of keys and values. Keys and values. So a dictionary is like a string, it's like a variable, but for this time round it uses what I call curly braces. So, and it has what I call keys and values. It has what I call, let me say, you once opened up a dictionary like Oxford Dictionary. So the keys are just like a shortcut or abbreviations to represent a certain word, to represent a certain string, to represent a certain integer, to represent a certain boolean in Python. So it's like just a dictionary. It uses keys and values like a dictionary, ordinary dictionary. You learned about it in school, whatever. So for dictionaries, these dictionaries use what I call curly braces. So let me say, let's make a dictionary of numbers. Let me say numbers. So for dictionaries, we put curly braces, but not let's say number of months, number of, let me say, names, maybe, whatever number of names. This should be underscore. So for dictionaries, let me say Jane. Let me like an abbreviation like Jane. This should be equivalent. This means that this is what I call Jane. So we have created a list of names. So this is what I call a dictionary of names. So in dictionary we use what I call curly braces. So and we use what I call colons, comma. So this is what I call a key, and we give it a value, whereby I told you dictionaries use what I call keys to represent values. So TM will represent Tim, RY it will represent Ryan, and Jim will represent James. So if you want to call out any element or any name in our dictionary, numbers of names, we just use what I call the get method. .get method. We print out the dictionary .get method. Into parentheses we put the key we are trying to call out. So we type, we print out open parentheses name, the variable .get, into bracket or into curly brackets we put what I call the key in 2 quotes. So when we try to run out our program, we see that it has exited as Jen, because Jen it's represented by Jen. So Jen is represented by Jen. So when we try to change this, let's say like RY, we put a key called RY and we run again our program, you see that it's going to print out or execute in our terminal what they call Ryan, because RY it's representing Ryan. Because in if you learned about dictionaries or you have ever used a dictionary, real dictionary, Oxford, whatever dictionary, Longman, you see that these are just abbreviations to represent a certain value, a certain word, anything. So that's all about dictionaries. Also there is also another method out apart from get. This is another method called set default. So set defaults like it's the same as a get method, but for this time around the set default means that if, let me try to extend this, if the key is not available in our dictionary, because you see here pub is not available in our dictionary, it will include this pub key with its value into our dictionary. So when we try to print out numbers, the dictionary itself, number of names, so we see that Moses is added in our dictionary. You see, let's first comment this out. Let's first see, we see that Moses is, let's run again the program. You see that Moses is added into our dictionary. Pub key is equivalent, it has the value of Moses in our dictionary, because we have set a default key pub to Moses. So there is a certain function called set default. So this sets, it adds, it's like adding a certain key and its value in a dictionary. So just the get method, it calls out a single key value from a dictionary, whereby the set default adds that key if it's not found that it's in the dictionary. There is also what we call the dial key method. So for the dial key method, this dial method all deletes it deletes or returns, let me say, it returns our dictionary as it was in the first. So let's say that we comment this and we try to run our dictionary. You see that it has added pub and Moses as a key. So to remove this, the last option of the set default method, this adds, then the del method also removes this, the set default keys we have put in our dictionary. To do that, we just use what they call the del method. So for the del method, we just write del space number, the dictionary name. We put what they call square brackets. Into the square brackets, we put the key in quotes we want to be removed from the dictionary. So when we try to run our program, you'll see that Moses, the set default key was removed from our dictionary. So let's also try to remove another key, or make an example to remove another key. Let's say we remove Jen. So we del, then the name of the dictionary, open square brackets, in two quotes you put the name of the key like Jen. So when we try to run our program, you'll see that in our terminal, Jen has been removed from the elements of our dictionary, but Moses or pub key is included because of the set default method. Understood? So you can remove just the del key is to, this method is to remove elements from the dictionary. The set default is to add keys in our dictionary. The get method is to print out a single element in our dictionary, or a single key, or a single value. It's just a single value in our dictionary. We have also a function called len. So what they call len. So for the len function, it's just a generic key inbuilt function which help us to tell us how many numbers, how many elements or keys are in our dictionary. So let's first comment out the delete and also comment out the set default method, and we run our program. We shall see that it will just print out the dictionary plus the number of keys in our dictionary. So when we try to count up the number of keys, we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4. That's the 4. It gives us the total number of elements, the number of keys in our dictionary. So that's what they call the learn genetic function. So when we try again to run, remaining with the function to give us 4, because we have only 4 keys in our dictionary. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are many other functions, other methods, like say we have what they call clear method. We have pop. This one just the pop removes keys. Also clear method, it makes the dictionary empty. We have also what they call update. How they call update method. It's just updates and you make another